So now in this game, I am playing the Elshad system versus the Black Line. All right, so like I mentioned previously, there's a lot of similarities between Black Line and the Elshad system, and I guess we're gonna see which one is better. But I'm not sure this game actually tells which one is better. But my opponent, once again, is a very strong player. Like I mentioned, he was an 1800 player before he encountered me. But in this case scenario, I start with the Esau system. So the Esau system, the signature move of the Esau system as white is normally to play C6. So you normally play C6. Um, I played this before I fully read the book. So when I played the when I think but when I was playing this opponent, I only read maybe about a quarter of the book or either one third of the book. So I was just playing based on the videos that this individual posted, as well as the very few games I actually seen in the book. And yeah, I guess I just perfect played D6. That's normally as black. So I played D3 as white. All right, so he plays the good move here. He played D6, and then I play C6. All right, so I'm definitely going for the Isha, and my opponent do the same thing. All right, and then now from here, one of the most signature move for the Isha system is to do this crazy early queen move, and that's probably the reason why I would say C6 is better for white first, because if I would have played C6 first, and let's say he would have played D6, then I could have got this early queen move right here, which seems really ridiculous. Like, why would you move your queen so early? You basically breaking the rule, which is moving your queen early in the opening. But I actually kind of like this because when you play the Esau system with white, it kind of limits your opponent's options, especially when you do this check right here. If you can get a check, um, cause when you play any other thing, so let's say when I'm playing the black line as white, then they can still play the opening they prefer playing. They can try to play the Sicilian, or they can try to play the French, or they can do any of their typical openings. But when you play the Esau system, they can't play any of those things. Any of the things that they normally play, it just goes out the window because yeah, it doesn't look like those typical openings. And if they were to try that, it wouldn't end up too well for them. So that's the reason I like playing Esau is that I literally throw them off the game. Any preparation they have, because a lot of some players, and that's why focus so much on the opening, and because they focus so much on the opening, they can play like a grandmaster for the first 15 moves or so. As much as they memorize, but then afterward, then they have to think on their own. But then during those first few moves, while they're playing like a grandmaster because they memorize the moves, you have to be very cautious with those players because you may fall for a trap that you don't know because you don't normally play that opening and so forth. So this is a great way to throw people off their game. All right, but anyway, I didn't play that way. I didn't study the book at that time. All right, so I did the D3 in C6. I mean C3. I'm so used to seeing it from the black perspective. I'm playing with white, and then I play this queen move right here, which is the computer rate is an inaccuracy, but I actually like this move. And then he moves his knight, and I move my pawn right here. Now, typically, as white, I would like to just thrust my pawn up here right away. But because of this knight move he made, he can harass my queen. And then now he has an open, diagonal to attack the pawn that just moved up here. So if I were to play the correct move order, then I would have been able to get that my pawn to G4 earlier, and he wouldn't have that move yet. So because of that extra move I gave him, because I played it slowly, it allowed me not to get the thrust that I wanted, which is fine. I was still learning. All right, so I just played it slowly. So I wanted to move that pawn up, but I didn't have the chance because he can harass my queen. That's the only downfall of playing this is that they can harass your queen. That's why technically that's supposed to move your queen too early. All right, and then I finally moved the g3, g4 that I wanted to. So that's another signature move of the Elshad method is moving the g pawn. And he did play a common move that most people play is he moved his pawn up to a6, and then I move my bishop in. Right now my bishop's eating shit. It can't really do anything on his diagonal, but you know, well, we'll see what I can make out of this. And then he makes a really bad move. This is not what you do in the Elshad method at all. I have no idea why he made this move. This move literally, once I saw this move, I like, okay, I can take advantage of this. I can definitely take advantage of this. And this is probably, I would say this move probably ended the game for him. Like right here, I would say the game is game over for him because of this one bad move he made. What he should have done, what the hell? What he should have done in this case, the book move is he should have just did this. Well, no, he's not playing Elshad method. He's playing the black line. So he should have just moved his knight up here. Or he could have moved his bishop in here. Either or would have been fine moves. Or typically, or he could have moved his queen here, which is also a move that people who play the black line do. So those are the moves that he should have done. But the move he did was just losing on the spot. It doesn't look like it right now, but as this game progresses, you're going to see how I'm going to take advantage of this. All right, so I move my knight in, going in for the kill, which kind of look backwards. I was going to go for the kill, but trust me, I'm going to take advantage of that. All right, then he does a move that I predicted he was going to do. He's going to harass my queen, and I predicted this. So I moved down to C2, which is typically the spot the queen retreat to. It depends on the position. Sometimes you may retreat all the way back to the home square, but in most cases you retreat to C2. All right, he get his bishop in. Now I was thinking about moving it to B3, so this way I can stop him from actually developing this bishop. However, I saw that he probably can either move his queen in here, and then later on move the bishop here to move to harass my queen here later on. And I just didn't want to give him any counter attack. I just didn't want to give him any free moves. So I just say, you know what, you can keep that diagonal. You already weaken your position enough. I'm going to get you later on. I'm definitely going to attack you later on. It's just right now, I just don't want to give you any kind of development move. But to be honest, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I should have put my queen. No, that was an inaccuracy. So I did play the best move. The computer did say it, so I was right frame of mind. All right, so that was my move. He moved his bishop here, which the computer didn't say was good for him. He should have attacked this pawn here, which I don't know. I think, to be honest, I don't see the downfall where his move is. I think he did a good move. That's probably what I would have played as well, excluding playing that bad move of moving that pawn up. But other than that, not too bad. All right, now I move my knight back. All right, but he's looked like he's going back, but he's actually going forward. He just maneuvering himself. All right, and then he played this move right here. Now this right here, once I saw this right here, he really weakened the squares around his king. And to be honest, he needs to castle queenside as quickly as possible. All right, so my knight is jumping in there. My main goal here is to stop him from castling right away. Even if he would have castled, it won't be a big deal. But I want to, I want to pin him down a little bit. I want him to recognize his weakness and understand that I am not going to let his inaccuracy go unnoticed. All right, so he moved his knight in. He's trying to develop, and then I get my bishop here. To be honest, this is probably not the best move, but I didn't want to attack it right away yet. All right, so he moves the queen on the spot that I told you where he should have moved the queen earlier. He could have moved earlier, and then I finally attacked the spot. So, like I mentioned earlier, I could attack that pawn earlier. Now I see. It's been a while since I played this game, so it's now coming back to me. I wanted to attack the pawn in a situation where he didn't have the option to protect it um, easily. So right now, the only way he can protect it is he can either protect it with his king, so he can either move his king here to protect it, or he have to retreat his knight back. And both case scenario will be I'll be happy with either case. Because the first case scenario, if he moved the king up, then that means his king can't castle to the queen side, which is typically an e-shot player. That's what they do. They usually castle on the queen side. But to be honest, he playing the black line. Oh yeah, so this is e-shot. I'm playing the e-shot, and he's playing the black line. This individual, I seen his games, and he plays the black line badly. He's a great player, but he doesn't really understand the black line too well. And what he does is he does castle on the queen side. And in my opinion, he's only able to castle on the queen side because his opponents is not playing the opening correctly. And a lot of his games are fast paced. And that's the thing about playing these blitz games. These blitz game would give people a false positive feedback where you think you're doing well, but you don't realize that you're only playing well because the people you're playing against don't have enough time to punish you for your inaccuracy. And when you play in the black line, it is pretty rare that you be able to castle queenside and get away with it. Very, very rare. In fact, the only time I ever castle queenside when I'm playing the black line is if my attack is coming so fast. It's like I only castle queenside to bring my rook into the game, and bringing my rook in the game is coming in too fast for my opponent to even do any kind of attack on me on the queen side. That's pretty much the only time I will castle on the queen side. Other than that, I'm going to either castle king side or typically I would stay on the center. But if I do castle, I'm a castle on the king side, either manually by hand or I literally physically castle. All right, but anyway, I got him to kind of castle manually, and this player is not used to this kind of position, which is cool since he's normally used to castling on the queen side because his opponent never punished him for it. And then I castle on the queen side, which is something that you do in the Isha is you do castle queen side, and that's totally acceptable. Or you can push your king up. So there's two different ways that an Isha player would typically castle. Is if this bishop was not in the way. So if the bishop was gone, then the king would occupy the space. So those are the way a king typically castle. Either he moves up the board to connect the rook, or he actually physically casts a queen. So those are typically the two things. Out of all the hundreds of games I've seen of the Isha, I think I only seen maybe like 2 games or 1 game where the guy actually castle king side and stuff like that. Typically, you either connect the pawn by moving your king up, which is the most common strategy, or in some cases you just castle queen side. All right, but anyway, I castle. So I'm kind of rubbing it in on them. It's kind of like saying, nah, nanny boo boo. I castle and you did it. I don't think he took it that way. But so in this case, he tried to get his rook active. He's trying to open up files for his rook, being that he couldn't castle. So he's gonna try to develop his rook without moving it. And then I move my pawn up the 1 square, which is typically not what you normally do in the Isha. But what happened is that I saw his knight jumping in. So I saw his knight be able to jump in here and then come in here. And I didn't want his knight to have any active square in there. Plus, also, I'm preparing to thrust this pawn. So I want to rip him open. I see where his king is at, and I want to expose him. Um, so this way his king doesn't feel comfortable. All right, so he does what I predicted. So I predicted his move way in advance, and in doing so, I'm also you know limiting his options. Like, okay, well, you can't make this knight jump, but whatever, you made the move anyway. And then I do my thrust that I wanted to do anyway. So I did that. He take, I take, he take the pawn, and I take here, and then he take back. Now, if you noticed earlier, I do have a pawn that is hung right here, right? He could take my pawn with a bishop, but then if he does that, then his bishop would get trapped. So let's say, for example, he would ignore this and take this free pawn, then he would have a bad day because, oh, they actually marked that as a blunder for me. Uh, I don't know. Why would that be a blunder? I can take that, right? Oh, okay, okay. They want me to take this first. I mean, I can take that anytime I want to. But regardless, this bishop would be stuck. It would literally be stuck. All right, anyway, we trade knights. And he still can't take it. So he did a really good move, which is harassing my bishop. I retreat back to the same square. And here I felt like he had a very good opportunity to strike at me. Now, I predicted his best move should have been moving his queen here. And once he moves here, then he basically would force me to, he can do to a fork on my queen and my rook, and that will force me to trade my bishop for his knight. And I really don't want to trade my bishop for his knight, and which would be the one from him. And there's a number of things I could do in that situation. Let's say he were to do that. So if he were to just move his queen over here, then I'll either have to make a move like this. I didn't like this. So yeah, I really didn't like this at all. Didn't like that. I couldn't find any really good moves. Like I felt like he really would have got me if he were to make that move. But he didn't see that. He decided to keep on going with his thrust. So I get my knight in the game. So now I get my knight in the game in such a way where I can attack his bishop as well. All right. So he tried to get his other bishop in the game. He tried to connect the rooks. All right, but I attack his bishop first. Once I attack his bishop, then I made a stupid move. I said, hey, you know what? Let me double his pawn. Bow. So I double his pawn. And I saw this as a good move for me because I was going to be able to attack this pawn as well as this pawn right here just by doing this. However, he easily parried that by protecting it. And it's still not a bad move from here. But let me backtrack to what the computer recommended, and I did not see this move. And I'm really mad I did not see this move. The best move in this situation for me is I should have just took this pawn right here. This would have been a beautiful move for me. Beautiful. Beautiful move. Beautiful. Because he has no opportunity to do any crazy move. Right? Because normally a player like this would try to find out some crazy knight sack here. Because if he were to take the knight, then I can take his knight with a check. So I took his knight with a check, and I won a pawn in the process. So in this is the end of the transaction. I won won this. I won the pawn. And not only did I win a pawn, but I am forcing him to make a move. He probably just move his bishop here, but then after he move his bishop to block, then I'll take his rook. So he will lost the exchange. So Man, I didn't play that well. I'm really mad at myself. I didn't see that move. All right, but anyway, you can't play perfect chess all the time. All right, so I decided to do this right here. So I thought this was better, but I didn't look close enough. I was just too anxious for the double pawns. When a double pawn really doesn't matter too much because there, I guess I looked at the double pawns where I created some weaknesses that I can attack. So I did that, move here, did that, and then attack another pawn. Now the reason I attacked this other pawn is I didn't want to give him a chance to start advancing his pawns yet, because right now he has a pretty strong rook right over here, and I wanted to force him in a situation where his rooks are not connected. So he blocked it with his bishop. This is what I predicted, and when he did that, once again, as you can tell, I'm very happy. I'm a pretty easy guy to please. I'm very happy because I literally block his rooks from being connected. My rooks are connected, right? I got two connected rooks, and I made him move his his bishop back to the home square, right? So his bishop is still back in the home square. His other rook, because not connected, can't really do anything on the queen side, which is where my king is at. For a play like this, he's a very strong attacker. He wants to attack, attack, attack. The best square for this rook would have been right behind the queen here, and they could have really caused me to have a bad day. But because of that, because of my in between attacking move, attacking his pawn, kind of harassing him, I caused him to, yeah, I caused him to actually block the other rook from getting into the game. So it's a good strategy is to block your opponents from actually getting any activity for the time being. I can't hold them on too long, but I try my very best. All right, so I move my rook in there, and I'm basically kind of threatening this pawn. And then he moves this rook into the game, so he's trying to take advantage of the pin. I'm assuming he's trying to move the pawn up, and I think that's what he does. He's like, oh yeah, okay, this pawn is pinned, he can't take. Oh, this is a great position for him. And I said, I don't give a fuck. And I played a good move right here. It was a good move. It was not the best move. The best move is I should have got my king out of the way, but you know what? I don't. It was an empty threat. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that he's threatening to take to try to rip my queen side open, because now I can actually get a double attack on that pawn. All right, he does what I expect him to do, and then I finally move out the way. And now I put him in a situation where he realized he thought he had my pawn pinned, but in reality, it's his pawn that's pinned because he cannot take this pawn because he would be hanging the queen. So it's kind of like letting him realize, hey, you know what? You thought you had the attack? No, 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 my friend. I'm the one that actually attack. I'm the one doing the attack. Right? So he moved his queen out the way because he wanted to take the pawns. He moved out the way, which this was a very bad move. It was a mistake, and blow, I take a free pawn. So I was pretty happy I won the pawn. Once I took this pawn right here, I already knew the game was over. I remember earlier I told you that the game was pretty much over because of that inaccuracy. Now in this situation, once he gave me a free pawn, I already knew the game was over. The main reason why I knew the game was over is that I studied the end game. And yeah, to give me an extra pawn in the end game is not good. It's not good at all because I know how to. I'm gonna trade off your queen, and I'm gonna make this a rook and pawn end game, and it's gonna be very hard for you to stop me from queening that pawn. All right, so I got the check, got him out the way. So he had a number of moves. This one that was very hard to predict what he was gonna do. Either he was, yeah, so he made this move, And then I made this kind of inaccuracy. And the reason I say this is inaccuracy because I gave him an open foul. I didn't want this just pawn hanging here and taking in and open up where my king is at. So I decided to take it myself. So I took it myself. He take back, and I kind of gave him an open foul. And I usually don't like doing stuff like this, but I don't know. This game right here was a pretty. I'll probably say out of all the games I played with him, this is the only game where he was able to have somewhat of an attack, right? Because I was so gun ho of trying to create weaknesses that even though I created weaknesses for him, I allow him to have possibility of trying to attack me. Now he's going to try to attack me. I don't think he actually succeed, but it still gave him hope of thinking that he can attack me. And I wish I didn't do this, but I don't know. I thought this was the best move for myself, but whatever. So this is the move I thought I had to do. All right. And then now I take the pawn, right? Because I was eyeing the pawn from the get-go. So I take the pawn. He takes back. Now I'm still protecting my knight because he's eyeing that knight. He want to find some crazy move to get to take my knight for free. But that's not how it's going to go. All right, so he protects this pawn because this pawn was attacked twice by my rook and my queen. And then I move my other rook into the game. And I'm threatening to take his bishop. So I'm threatening to move my rook here with a check. And then once I do that check, he's going to lose that bishop because even if he were to block, so let's show that out. So let's say I move here. So let's say, for example, he does a crazy move, like trying to double pawn, whatever here, right? Then I can get this check right here. He can block. I still take. Then here, and then from here, there's a number of moves I can do from here. I think the best move will be to, to take with this, yeah, to take the rook, take it with the rook, and then I think I can probably get checkmate from here. I think from here he is checkmated. Yeah, from here, yeah, he has no way of actually getting out. I'm gonna be able to checkmate him. All right, so he didn't do that. Well, he saw through that. Is what I'm trying to say. So he saw through that, and he does an in-between move. His in-between move was pretty decent. Plays like this play for tricks, and I can try to win the bishop and do all the crazy move I wanted to do. So let's say I were to do this, he can just move out the way, and even though I win the bishop, he'll win the game because he'll checkmate me. So I take away that possibility of him checkmating me, and then from here, oh, I love this. From here, he got desperate. I consider that people are desperate if they ask me, they beg me and say, Edney, please trade queens with me. Just trade queens with me. And you know what? I'm a good friend. And I'm gonna do that, but before we do that, let's make this trade. Let's see what you're gonna do here. I was hoping he was gonna try to block with the rook, but he didn't see. He saw that. He's a very good player. He saw that. But I am gonna take that queen off his hand. But before I do that, I at least want to make him suffer a little bit. All right, so he did a very good move, which is he moved his king up the board. He didn't try to block. Now, I cannot, because of the way that things are situated, I cannot win this free bishop. Players like this guy play for tricks. He's a very, very tricky guy. He plays for tricks. If I were to make a stupid move and take the bishop, then it's over for me because he would just come in with a check. The only move I have is to block, and then He'll check me from here, and the only legal move I have from here is either block this way or block that way. But I don't like that. I'll be losing the queen for nothing. Be losing the queen for nothing. Yeah, I didn't like that at all. Yeah, that would suck. It would have been a very bad day for me. All right, so I didn't fall for that. I obliged. He said, "Hey, you want to trade queens? Here you go. We trade queens. You begged me to it, and I'm gonna do. And then from here, I make sure he's down the exchange. I want to make him suffer for losing the queen. And say, you know what? Bing. So I basically fork his two rooks, and by forking his two rooks, he has to take, and then I made the trade. So right now I am up their exchange. So I'm up the exchange and have a pretty good right here. So I'm very happy from here. And I believe from here the game is over. So at this point my opponent gave up. Now typically when someone give up, they will give up by resigning. But in this situation my opponent gave up by not playing no more. He just he just timed himself out. He didn't want to play, and I don't blame him because I really don't see any good moves from him for right around here. There's no good moves as far as for him in this case scenario. I mean, there is one good move where he can try to. I preconditioned this where he's going to try to take this pawn, and then maybe he try to play for some kind of crazy checkmate. By somehow getting this here, and if he can get this, if he can get his rook here, then it'll be a good checkmate and stuff like that. It would be hard for me to escape. Even if it would get down here, yeah, it would have been it would have been very hard for me to do. I mean, I saw through that. I was willing to give him that pawn back. It's double anyway. Yeah, but he gave up. He just timed himself out and decided not to play anymore. It was a very fun game. I learned quite a bit from this interaction. And I guess the more behind the story is that, yeah, know your openings. Know your openings and really study your end games. Because if you know your opening, you can punish your opponent for playing inaccuracy in the opening. But then if you really know the end game, oh my God, you can have a lot of fun, especially once you trade off that queen. Because once you trade off that queen, a lot of these strong players, they may have high ratings when the queen is on the board, but once the queen is off the board, they play very badly, way below their rating. So like in this case scenario, if I had to like before we played this game, he was like an 1800 player, but then notice once the queen is off the board, he's basically like a 1400 player.